So one of the things you mentioned is how come we're not content? How come people are not content with the things that God has blessed them with, whether they're Christians or not as Christians? We never seem to be content. I guess that's just part of our
Right.
human nature. You can expand on
Right.
that.
Well, I think, one of the things that you just said, the understanding that Solomon doesn't see the other side of the cross, but I talk all the time that we as just human beings are people of short attention spans and short memories. So even though we know this side of the cross, there are many times in our lives where we live like we don't. We forget that in the midst of everything else that's going on. And that's not to pretend that like, hey, there's nothing in our lives that should ever have our focus or, we all live in the midst of busyness and craziness of life and just all the stuff going on. And it's really easy to get distracted. And when we get distracted, we forget the things that we know. Right? We know this side of the cross. We know what Jesus has done for us. We know that he lived perfectly, died sacrificially, rose victoriously to deliver us completely. And that is everything we need. We know that. Like, I don't say that in front of, our church or most Christians, and they go, oh, I've never heard that before. Like, I didn't realize that. No, we know that, but we forget it so easily. And we find ourselves in Solomon's place where we're looking at the world around us going, well, none of this is the way I think it should be. And so, God, where are you? What are you doing? Why don't you just let things be the way I think they should be? And so we miss that and we forget that. And pretty soon then our lives become about us and about our desires and about our thoughts and about our just the way we think systems should work in this world. And and then all of a sudden we're into that futility. Like, all that stuff we're pouring our time and energy in isn't satisfying us, isn't fulfilling us, isn't making us happy. And we go, well, what do we do now? Right? And we forget this side of the cross.
Yeah. So I think there's worldly wisdom and the things that you can do to influence and to impact the world. And then there's this godly wisdom that we tend to use only when we want to, maybe we when it's convenient for us, because our human side of our nature wants us to have these worldly things. So that's a struggle that we have.